Hello, welcome back to my videos. Hope you're doing well. I know it's been a minute, but you know, I only want to do these videos when I'm passionate about it. So anyway, this video is a part 2 of Is It Worth Living in London. I have had a couple of requests to redo this video, see if I have any update or different opinions as to what I did last time, and also just to clarify just a little bit certain things I said beforehand, and just expand on it a bit more without hopefully waffling on forever. So yeah. But if you haven't seen that video, then make sure you check out part 1 right now and then come back to this video. And yeah, a couple of things have changed since the last video. At that time I was living in London, but now I'm currently living in Leeds. So let's see if my opinions have changed since then. And as always, I will do a pros and cons list. So let's get started. Also, if I obviously repeat things that I said last time, it's just me clarifying / confirming my opinion of things that are great or bad, in my personal opinion, about London. So cool, but hope you enjoy. So firstly, with the pros, it is social events or just anything social. It's literally just a major hub for all these things, whether it's networking events, meetups, festivals, certain occasions or celebrations, or just anything. It's such a great hub of all things like this, especially related to performing arts, acting, film, you name it. There's so much you can do, and there's always something on that you can see that obviously ranges in prices, but yeah, there's always something free you can find and something affordable, and there's also obviously the pricier things that you can do. And yeah, it's such a great hub for that, and I definitely feel that whilst I was in London, I've tried to make the most of it, especially once it came out of lockdown. You know, just going to all the events that I could and supporting this, that and everything. Great place for all things like this, and there isn't many places like it. Whilst I was living in Dartford, I tried to make the most of it. Things like, especially BFI networks, if you're ever around, and they're still doing it, they're really, really good ones. I've met loads of people through that. And just finding ones that are online meetups, obviously double checking that they're official, but I found quite a few through there. I watch theatre and plays, especially on my own, just kind of because they're a little bit more affordable than some musical ones that I'd love to see. But anyway, that's a different story. But yeah, just trying to make the most of it. I think that is very important. If you have time to be able to do that and the luxury to do that, 100% do it. Definitely. Second one is it opens up more opportunities to castings. And I feel this is very specific to spotlight castings. Most of the times, or personally ones I see, they're either held in-person auditions or either at their hub, or the production company's done one that's local. You get what I mean? But they either ask you to be London or within the M25 radius. Obviously for them it saves them money, time, travel, worrying about people being here, there and everywhere. This is a major plus, 100%. And obviously if you're based in London, this is ideal because they'll be able to see that you're based there. Yeah, it does open up some opportunities, especially for like student productions or certain film schools. They always want you to be London based because obviously it's within budget. They're often, I see a lot of spotlight ones, they want you to be based in London. Now, of course, this can limit opportunities if you're not based in London. Obviously, these are slightly the cons. But this isn't a massive one for me personally because I haven't really got any jobs from Spotlight. I've done a few auditions here and there via it, or self-tapes or in-person ones, but not a lot to completely justify being in London 100% of the time. But that's just me personally. I don't often go up for, or haven't been put forward, or not getting commercials, adverts, obviously modelling. I don't do that. But most people who I know who are doing those sort of things are normally based in those kind of fields. That's just my perspective of what I've seen. I haven't personally really had any film or TV ones that have 100% required me to be there. So yeah, that kind of pinpoint doesn't cater to me too much. Or unless I'm just happy to travel and say to them, yeah, I can be London based, I will be there, and take that out of what I make. But obviously if it's only expenses covered or is very minimum budget, obviously this might not work. But yeah, but that one, like the spotlight thing, kind of depends on your situation and where your career has taken you and what avenues you want to go to. But obviously it is a massive plus being in London for castings. It is, of course it is. It just depends how much you get that. Yeah, it's each for their own. It's not my best answer, is it? But it's true. So to put it in context, since moving out of London, it hasn't really affected my castings, I believe. Well, always ironically, you do get castings when you move out of somewhere, but personally that's for mocap / they're happy to include that / incorporate it, and I'm very fortunate to have my parents still in Uxbridge. So yeah, it hasn't really affected me too much. I have had one person in audition, one in-person audition since, and that I feel was quite a one-off. For me, it hasn't been too much of a loss, as you could say, since moving out of London for castings, but also I do want to consider that picking my roles at the moment is being more about quality rather quantity. So I will say, again, it depends what stage you are in your career. For me, I'm being a lot more specific of the roles I do. So that means I don't or not apply into a lot of productions or smaller budgets or this and that. I've a slightly different approach to my career in the ones I pick. So yeah, that isn't really a limit for me, but I feel that if you're still wanting to explore many fields and genres and be a part of every production you can for experience and just able to and want to, of course, this is a big pro of being in London. And also if you get a lot of last minute casting calls and you do need to shoot around or could need to shoot around London all the time, especially if you're a model, adverts, again, as I said before, this is a massive plus of being in London. But for me, it hasn't really affected me. Knock on wood. Now the cons list. I'm trying to keep it nice and short and sweet and specific to what I think are good and bad, by the way. The first one of the con list is the obvious. It is so expensive. It is. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Living in London is dear. Like, we lived in Dartford. It's the last zone that you can get on the Oyster, or I don't even think anyone uses Oyster anymore. That's how long I've used to be in London. But it's the last one on the rails of contactless in the zones and kind of being a deal. Once you get out of that, you have to start getting tickets and it's a bit of faff. But yeah, even living in Dartford, it was still expensive. Like now, to get into like zone 1, central London, there and back, I think, don't quote me on it, but it was something like 12 quid. And if you're doing that daily or you're also hopping different zones, it's still a lot of money to get into London. And that's not even including living, eating, breathing. Like, it is dear. And of course, what I want to clarify in the last video, I did say it's kind of affordable. I mean in the sense of course it's going to be more affordable jumping from auditions and being in and out of London if you live in London, rather than the equivalency of you living out of London and spending how much money on your travel to just get in there. So if we consider, if it's, I don't know, 15 quid, let's round it up, to get into London for a day for a casting, to equivalent to, say, living, I don't know, Midlands or even further down south, and it's coming up to 50 to 100 quid for travel or trains or things like that, it's obviously a big difference. And if you add that up at how many times you're doing that a week, a month, yeah, of course it's going to be more affordable for your travel expenses in London, to being in London. But overall, living and breathing in London, it is very expensive. Of course it is. But it just depends on your situation. I feel am very fortunate of being supported and having, you know, someone else who is in a full-time job and accepts me being here, there and everywhere and being a bit of a pain in the butt. But if you are dependent solely on yourself, it can be a big challenge, I've seen, and trying to juggle a full-time job / going to castings and being so flexible and available whenever you can, is this a lot. I hope there's a point to this. But I do feel with paying for castings or essentially losing out money for, you know, an unpaid day of work, or if you're considering it as a holiday day, it all depends if you're happy and the opportunity is worth it. I think at the end of the day, if it's a type of casting that you really want, then you won't see it as a loss. But also, yeah, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, or consider that if it's an unpaid gig, it's going to be, the benefits are going to reap more of the opportunity and the footage rather than the money. But again, you have to juggle it and work out what works for you and what you can afford. But yeah, it's just something you have to decide for yourself, whether the opportunity outweighs the expenditure, and if you can have that luxury. Well, a little positive from that, if obviously you're not in central London and you are travelling, what I've found, especially obviously being since in Leeds, obviously coaches are more affordable, like the Megabus or the National Rail. You can get them fairly cheap. Of course, a massive downside is they're long and it can be quite busy and crowded, and obviously if you get a bit travel sickness, it's not the nicest. And also consider, if you need to get into London, say for example like 9 AM, it can be a bit hard trying to find a coach that will get you in for that time, because obviously travel times. But it is an alternative of more affordable ways to travel into London, and it gets you straight directly into London, which is a massive bonus, so you don't have to faff around getting trains potentially and buses and all that jazz. And as we all know, as creatives, the hardest thing, or one of the hardest things I think, is trying to find a job that is flexible around what we do. You know, acting is our priority, our number one, and a lot of jobs don't like being number two. I get it, but still. So that is one of the biggest challenges, and I think juggling everything in our lives. But I have been considering of making a video of more acting related jobs, or more flexible jobs that I've personally done or know people have done. And would you would like me to give them off in a video? Let me know, give me a thumbs up and write in the comments, because of course it helps. But yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Share what I feel has been more flexible or more fulfilling whilst pursuing acting. But one of my major top tips, and this is just a good one in general, it actually doesn't solely comply to just the UK, is if you have other bases in different locations, then why not put that down as one of your alternative bases, or say that you're located in that place. For example, as I've mentioned, my parents are still in Uxbridge, which is Greater London. So if there's a specific job that caters to solely being in London and they are not considering anyone else anywhere, I will put them based in London and just take that personal hit myself of the travel if the role is worth the opportunity. Again, I don't want to lie, it's not that, but it's more the fact of, you know, if you're more local, it might aid yourself getting the opportunity. I don't know if I'm putting this in the right way, but yeah, if you have other bases that you know that your friends or family are happy for you to stay there for however amount of time, whether it's a couple of days, a night, a week, blah blah blah, put it as your second base, or switch it round depending on the job, because this can really help. And I know a lot of people who do it. So that can be a little workaround if you are not permanently based specifically in London. It can really help in your jobs. Because often a lot of the reason why they don't want people not based, say, in London, is because they can't do accommodation or pay for your travel. That is the number one thing, pretty much, why they localise it. And to be honest, localise it with anywhere is purely money. So if you're able to cater this in or aid it, and you be okay with that loss personally, then yeah, why not? Shoot that shot. My second con is most of the auditions these days are self-tapes, or at least the first round are self-tapes, which means that you can do it from home, which means it doesn't mean that you have to be in London. Of course, often when you do want to be in London, or it needs to be in person, that's when it might be the round two, recalls, blah 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 blah, which then you know you have a better chance and opportunity of getting the role, which I'm sure you'll be happy to then travel. But the mass amount of auditions, I can honestly say 99% of my auditions these days are at home, which of course means you don't need to live there. So I think that's a massive aid, and that is the biggest shift 100% since living in London to now being in Leeds, and also just that period of time in all of our lives. It's a lot easier for productions to send out a casting brief to how many people and to get self-tapes back, because obviously it saves them money for not having to hire out a base to hold the auditions if they don't have it. Of course, I do see a massive negative in this way, because from a performance wise, you don't get that raw / adrenaline side where you sometimes can surprise yourself through your audition. Through being under the pressure, you can deliver a better performance than being relaxed at home. Yes, I think that's a massive downside. And also, they don't often get to see your personality by the interactions, and you don't get to feel their vibe, and that whole, you just get more of a connection when you meet someone in person. That's a massive downfall. Massive con is, I personally haven't felt it being necessary being in London right now, because most of my self-tapes are at home. So it doesn't matter where I am. They are, I'm just doing 2 and 2, pros and cons, the biggest things, I believe, that are good and bad. And my overall review, or update, let's say, of do you need to be in London to be an actor? And for me personally right now, no. Yes, I have had several projects that have needed me to be back in London. I won't lie, I've probably been back in London once a month, possibly. But well, I like driving. I really enjoy travelling down. And again, I know it's a massive fortune. I get to see my family and stay with my family, so I see it as a win-win. I get to spend a little bit of time with the family and then go to a job and then drive back. Of course, it's more petrol, travel, more risk of my car breaking down. But I don't see that as a massive negative with the travel now. I have kind of learnt to love the journey, and I enjoy singing in my car and things like that, and taking the hit that I'm going to be tired, and also safe, but driving carefully when I can. And it might be long days, but it's worth it for the project and the opportunity. So that considered, me now living in Leeds, I really am enjoying it. It's a lovely base, and yeah, I haven't felt that I need to be back in London currently. It doesn't mean that I don't miss it. That's very different, but that's also more down to the people that I miss in Dartford. But apart from that, but for being an actor, currently I don't feel like I need to be there right now. Also because I'm really trying to make the most and seeking out opportunities here, but in Leeds, Manchester, things like that, that make up and are similar for things that I try to make the most of in London, like networking, socialising and whatnot. So this is to you. If you don't have the fortune of having people based in London, or friends or family that you know you can't stay at, and you are getting a lot of requests to be in London, or you're seeing a lot of castings that you know that you could apply for and fit and could probably get those castings, then yeah, being in London is probably going to be really fortunate for you. Especially as much as when people say when you're first starting out you don't need to be there, but if you want to get involved and are able to get involved in several projects that are people developing and building up their skills as well and being a part of it 100% hands-on, yes, you will definitely aid from being in London. And to be honest, I think that matters wherever you are. If you're being proactive, you're going to make the best and the most of wherever you are. If you don't need to be in London, but you're still happy and able to travel in and out for castings, and you may miss out on some opportunities because you're not based in London and this doesn't affect your growth and your career too much, then you can live wherever. I personally think. It always comes down to you personally, which kind of makes me redundant in this video, doesn't it? I don't feel like it's ruined my opportunities as of yet, not being in London, because for me I'm focusing a lot more on film, TV, voiceover, mocap, which means that yeah, it hasn't really needed for me to be in and out of London, jumping from casting calls to here and there all the time. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. And if you can live in London and you're able to afford it and you want to live in London, do it. But if it's really going to put you out or really, really mess you up in so many negative ways just to say that you're in London, but it's not really benefiting you, it's not worth the stress and the hassle, I don't feel, because, you know, you want to be happy and content in all ways, and you do need to look after your health in all ways. And if you're pushing yourself and grinding yourself into the ground and you're not really reaping the benefits of being in central London, then yeah, just move out a little bit. Find somewhere that's more affordable, somewhere that you can be, and travel. So yeah, I kind of hope that helps and / clarifies or re-clarifies bits that I said before. But I'd love to know your opinion. Do you live in London or around London, around London, or even anywhere, North, Midlands, you name it, even further down south, or all across the globe? I'm really curious on what you think, you know, whether it's helped you being central to a certain city, or it's okay for you not to be there as much anymore. And yeah, the world's changed, it's completely different in some ways. So yeah, how's it affected you and your castings? I would love to hear anyone else's opinions and whether it can help other people in different situations, because obviously I don't have any experience of abroad projects. I don't know that realm. So if you have any tips for other people who might not be from the UK or wanting to move abroad to the UK and have tips for that, please let them know. Because yeah, I got nothing else to say and I'm rambling. So yeah, I hope you're doing well and you enjoyed this video. Goodbye. I really don't know what else to say. I don't know. Okay, goodbye.